Before the Justice League ever faced Starro, DC was already experimenting with secret squads, kid gangs, and even a team of superpowered pets. Today, we're going to dig into the first 10 teams ever created in DC history, the strange lineup of squads that quietly built the universe long before crisis events, reboots, and multiverse charts even existed in comics. Hey everyone, if you love deep cuts from DC history, smash the like, drop a comment with your favorite team, and subscribe so you don't miss the next trip into weird old comics. Justice Society of America was the first true superhero team, debuting in All-Star Comics #3 in the early 1940s. Instead of one lone vigilante, readers suddenly saw Flash, Green Lantern, Spectre, Hawkman, Dr. Fate, and other mystery men sharing the same meeting room, which felt completely new for the time. Even Superman and Batman were listed as honorary members, dropping by on occasion while the spotlight stayed on the lesser-known heroes. Justice Society stories also worked as a crossover between different publishing lines, bringing together characters from both DC and All-American Comics in one roster. When superhero books started to lose steam, the original run ended in the early 1950s, but the team refused to stay buried. Years later, new stories revealed the JSA as wartime legends of Earth 2, veterans of World War II, whose adventures shaped the entire DC multiverse. Seven Soldiers of Victory were DC's second big super team, one that never reached the fame of the Justice Society but stayed just as chaotic. Green Arrow and Speedy fought beside Shining Knight, Vigilante and the duo Star-Spangled Kid and Stripesy, blending cowboy heroics, archery stunts, teenage showmanship, and armored fantasy. Dubbed Law's Legionnaires in ads, they even answered a villain's newspaper invite just to smash his perfect crime. Seven Soldier stories often felt like experimental crossovers, throwing these B-listers against bizarre villains, mad science, and reality-bending threats. In one cult storyline, the cosmic being Nebula Man hurls each member to a different era, forcing the Justice League and Justice Society to team up years later to rescue them. That mix of forgotten heroes, time travel, and chaos turned the Soldiers into a deep-cut favorite for continuity fans. Blackhawks were a squadron of pilots fighting in World War II, born in an era when war comics could rival caped heroes in sales. Led by the mysterious Blackhawk, this international team flew sleek fighter planes from a hidden base called Blackhawk Island, screaming their "Hawk-ah-ah-ah" battle cry as they dove into danger. Their roster pulled in aces from across Europe and America, giving every mission a pulp movie, Foreign Legion energy. Blackhawks mixed grounded dogfights with pulpy fantasy, pitting the squad against experimental weapons, armored monstrosities, and sky pirates with bizarre superplanes. Each ace came from a different country, turning the unit into a symbol of allied unity even when the plots turned wild. For a surprising stretch of the era, their series sold on the same level as Superman, blending patriotic propaganda, aviation obsession, and wild imagination. Newsboy Legion followed a gang of street kids hustling newspapers in Suicide Slum, a rough corner of Metropolis where poverty shaped every choice. Big Words, Gabby, Scrapper, and Tommy kept stumbling into schemes above their pay grade, surviving each mess with stubborn courage, wild luck, and plans that barely counted as plans. Jack Kirby poured childhood memories of real tenement gangs into them, giving the Newsboys loud, authentic voices. Newsboy Legion brought heart to the early DC universe by grounding superhero drama in everyday struggle and class tension. The boys' secret guardian was Jim Harper, a rookie cop who moonlighted as the masked hero guardian, trying to keep them alive without blowing his cover. Decades later, stories introduced cloned heirs of the original crew at Project Cadmus, turning kid gangs into a shield between dangerous science and regular neighborhoods. Boy Commandos were an international kid gang created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, first appearing in Detective Comics #64 during World War II. Led by Captain Rip Carter, Brooklyn, Andre, Alfie, and Jan hurled themselves into missions against the Razzies, turning grim headlines and newsreel footage into explosive comics adventure. Their series became one of DC's biggest wartime hits, rivaling even Superman in raw circulation and attention. Boy Commandos stories blended harsh war backdrops with wild pulp energy as the boys stormed castles, sabotaged secret weapons, and traded wisecracks with enemy soldiers. Each member had a distinct accent, look, and attitude, giving young readers different heroes to latch onto. Later retcons linked Brooklyn to Dan Turpin, anchoring this chaotic squad of orphans deeper inside Superman's rougher street-level corner of the DC universe. Challengers of the Unknown were 4 men who survived a freak plane crash they absolutely should have died in, debuting in Showcase number 6 with Jack Kirby artwork that buzzed with energy. Test pilot Ace Morgan, Daredevil Red Ryan, strongman Rocky Davis, and scientist Professor Haley decided that, since they were living on borrowed time, they might as well dive headfirst into every impossible mission the world could throw at them. Challengers of the Unknown adventures mixed Monster of the Week chaos with strange science and cosmic threats years before the Fantastic Four arrived. In matching jumpsuits, the team explored cursed artifacts, alien invaders, and time-warped dimensions, usually surviving by inches. Those early stories helped define DC's late 1950s shift into weirder, more experimental adventure books that blurred the line between superheroes and pulp sci-fi. Legion of Superheroes burst onto the scene in Adventure Comics number 247 as a trio of teenagers from the future pranking Superboy with a fake rejection before revealing they idolized him. Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Lad invited him to the 30th century, where superhero clubs, rocket belts, robot judges, and time travel were just part of normal student life. That mix of futuristic gimmicks and teenage attitude instantly stood out. Legion of Superheroes quickly evolved from a one-off idea into a sprawling cast of young champions from dozens of worlds, each joining under strict rules, code names, and powers. Stories leaned into club drama, elections, and betrayals as much as alien wars, making the book feel like a sci-fi high school soap. A young Jim Shooter later helped define their mythos, writing complex plots and tragedies while still a teenager himself. Suicide Squad first appeared in The Brave and the Bold, Darker 25, not as jailed supervillains, but as a human Task Force X taking on impossible threats. Led by Rick Flag, with Karen Grace, Jess Bright, and Hugh Evans, they fought menaces like the Red Wave Beast, a cosmic phenomenon boiling oceans and spawning gigantic creatures that normal military units were never meant to handle. Every mission was sold as a near-certain death sentence for the team. Suicide Squad stories of that era leaned more toward pulpy sci-fi adventure than gritty Black Ops, with rockets, monsters, and strange alien landscapes everywhere. But the core idea was already there. Specialists thrown into situations nobody else could survive. Decades later, John Ostrander reimagined the same Task Force X concept with imprisoned supervillains, keeping the name and the suicidal odds while changing the moral stakes. Justice League of America formed in The Brave and the Bold, Darker 28, when Starro the Conqueror arrived on Earth planning to enslave humanity. Instead of solo acts, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, and Superman answered the same emergency call, creating a Silver Age answer to the old Justice Society and proving team-up books could anchor the modern DC universe for generations of devoted comic readers. Justice League of America also introduced Snapper Carr, a finger-snapping teen mascot meant to represent young fans hanging around their idols. While he aged out of the role, the idea that the League exists as a public symbol stuck hard in continuity. Later rosters, crises, and reboots kept returning to that first battle with Starro, using a giant mind-controlling starfish as the strange but perfect starting point for DC's flagship team. Legion of Super Pets debuted in Adventure Comics number 293 when the Legion of Superheroes needed backup that could ignore alien mind control. Crypto the Super Dog, Streaky the Super Cat, Beppo the Super Monkey, and Comet the Super Horse joined forces against the brain globes of Rambot, turning what could have been a throwaway gimmick into one of the strangest and most charming teams in DC Comics history, mixing parody and sincerity. Legion of Super Pets carried the same club vibe as the Legion of Superheroes, complete with roll calls, meetings, and bizarre sci-fi threats, just filtered through talking animals. Over time later, stories added figures like Ace the Bat Hound or Jumpa the Super Kanga, turning it into a loose family of heroic pets. The idea went quiet after Crisis, but came roaring back in modern comics and the animated DC League of Super Pets movie. That's it for our look at DC's first teams, from wartime squads to cosmic pets. Thanks for watching. Hit like, leave a comment saying which team surprised you most, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive.